In this podcast episode, Candace Owens opens up about her personal background, political evolution, and her rise as a media commentator. The conversation also dives deeply into controversies and conspiracies surrounding the assassination of Charlie Kirk, Owens' former colleague and friend. She shares insights into her professional disputes, her views on Zionism and Israel, the role of secret societies, and her conversion to Catholicism. The episode touches on her personal life, professional challenges, and her outlook on current political and cultural crises. Candace Owens was born in White Plains, New York, and grew up primarily in Stamford, Connecticut. Coming from a modest background, her family moved in with her grandparents due to financial struggles when she was 8. This move had a significant impact on her upbringing, instilling a strong work ethic influenced by her grandfather, a sharecropper turned successful homeowner. Despite her parents' divorce when she was 23, Owens describes her siblings as very close. She was a tomboy who loved outdoor activities as a child and initially aspired to become an archaeologist before shifting ambitions toward law or writing. Owens recounts an incident in her senior year of high school when she received horrific racist threats via phone messages involving the son of a politician, which escalated into a media event. This episode provided her with an early and harsh lesson on how politics and media function, especially in exploiting victim narratives. She also reflects on the exaggerated weight society places on derogatory language and the tendency of political and advocacy organizations like the NAACP to perpetuate divisions for fundraising purposes rather than solving real problems. These experiences shaped her skepticism toward identity politics and victim culture. Owens attended the University of Rhode Island, majoring in English and journalism. After financial struggles threatened her final year, she moved to New York City and worked her way up from nannying to a private equity assistant, eventually becoming vice president of administration in a small firm. During her early New York years, she interned at notable magazines like Vogue, but soon found the environment toxic and opted out. This phase of her life was marked by continuous self-improvement, including learning Spanish and gaining finance skills, which later complemented her communications career. Originally a liberal in her youth, Owens' views shifted dramatically after encountering what is known as the Gamergate controversy, which exposed her to the darker side of internet culture and media bias. Disillusioned with traditional leftist media, she began exploring conservative thought, eventually embracing conservatism rooted in family values and free market principles. This ideological pivot was also influenced by her experiences of being marginalized by the established media and her gradual exposure to conservative voices. She started creating content on YouTube under the name Red Pill Black, which unexpectedly went viral and propelled her into national attention with Fox News and Turning Point USA. Owens describes an immediate and deep connection with Charlie Kirk when they started working together at Turning Point USA. They shared a startup mentality and a passion for disrupting college campus politics. The two traveled extensively, building a movement based on conservatism and free markets. Kirk was inspired by Rush Limbaugh and aspired to build a similar media empire. Owens recalls the intensity of the work and camaraderie, but also notes the increasing corporate influence and donor pressures that complicated the environment. Their bond evolved alongside their mutual desire to change political narratives among young Americans. A significant portion of the podcast is dedicated to Owens' investigation and perspective on the assassination of Charlie Kirk. She challenges the official narrative, suggesting inconsistencies in eyewitness reports, security details, and hospital handling. Owens questions the identity and involvement of individuals such as Tyler Robinson, whom she believes was not present at the scene and may have been used as a distraction. She proposes the possibility that explosives were involved, citing soil removal and irregular crime scene management, and hypothesizes about a shape charge mechanism. Owens criticizes the official handling of evidence and suspects a cover-up tied to powerful interests, including Israeli influence. Owens is openly critical of Erica, Charlie Kirk's widow, highlighting what she perceives as a lack of genuine grief or humanity in public appearances and speeches. She contrasts Erica's behavior with more typical expressions of mourning, suggesting the widow was more focused on advancing the Turning Point USA brand than honoring Charlie's personal legacy. Owens also uncovers suspicious behavior and inconsistencies from Erica, including the orchestration of media and PR narratives to control public perception. She suspects Erica's involvement with power players and fundraising figures at Turning Point USA, casting doubt on her motivations and emotional sincerity. Owens outlines multiple defamation lawsuits she has faced, especially involving figures connected to the Charlie Kirk incident and Turning Point USA's network. The most detailed case concerns Brian Harpole, a former security contractor she publicly called incompetent after the death of Charlie. He sued her for defamation, alleging damage to his business, though Owens maintains that her criticisms were based on observable failures. She describes the legal process of suing as a form of intimidation and control, with some lawsuits serving more as PR strategies than winnable cases. Owens also discusses the antagonistic legal dynamics she endured at the Daily Wire, revealing a toxic workplace atmosphere. Owens reflects on her tenure and eventual firing from the Daily Wire, describing a toxic corporate culture led by CEO Jeremy Boring. She shares anecdotes about the bizarre management style, including excessive concern over minor content choices and orchestrated public firings reminiscent of a sitcom. Owens was fired a year after the Kanye West controversy when she refused to publicly denounce the rapper, which caused significant financial loss to her due to contract cuts. The conditions and pressure to toe pro-Israel lines contributed to her departure. Owens also recounts the mistreatment of other former Daily Wire talent, including Brett Cooper, highlighting a pattern of legal harassment and controlling behavior. Candace Owens explicitly criticizes Zionist influence in American politics, describing it as mafia-like and extremely controlling. She condemns what she perceives as Israel's policy of aggressive territorial expansion and mass violence against Palestinians in Lebanon, framing these actions as genocidal. Owens alleges that many prominent political figures and media personalities are complicit or fearful of challenging Israeli policies due to financial and political pressures. She traces Zionist power to secretive networks with deep roots in global finance and influence, asserting that this coalition works to suppress dissent and maintain control over the U.S. government and culture. The conversation delves into Freemasonry, Illuminati, and occult symbolism, highlighting their historical and ongoing significance in shaping global power structures. Owens connects these groups to a satanic betrayal of traditional religious institutions, particularly the Catholic Church, which she views as a bastion of truth persecuted by these forces. She explains that many elites are involved in occult practices, including ritualistic child sacrifice, which fuels their power and control. Owens describes how the concept of sex magic and demonic worship is central to these networks, and claims that such dark influences contributed to events like Charlie Kirk's assassination. Owens discusses her spiritual journey, motivated notably by her husband's conversion and her own exploration of Catholicism. Through studying history, theology, and the aggressive opposition the Church has faced over centuries, she developed a deeper appreciation for its teachings and legacy. She credits Catholicism with providing stability, truth, and beauty amid cultural chaos. Owens expresses admiration for Russia's Orthodox Christian traditions and contrasts America's spiritual emptiness and social decay. This religious awakening is portrayed as both a personal refuge and a blueprint for societal renewal. Candace shares the intimate story of meeting her husband, George Farmer, during a Turning Point UK event arranged somewhat serendipitously. Despite an 18-day courtship and engagement before even sharing their first kiss, Owens describes their relationship as a deep, soul-level connection. They have been married for 7 years and are expecting their 5th child. Owens emphasizes that genuine love, mutual respect, and fascination for one another are the key to a successful marriage. Her husband's intellectual versatility and dedication provide vital support in her challenging public life. Owens is openly critical of the current U.S. military establishment, suggesting that American forces are deployed to serve foreign interests, particularly Israel, rather than protect American citizens. She advocates for people to refuse military service under present conditions and instead focus on local community defense and self-sufficiency. Owens expresses disillusionment with mainstream politics and the electoral system, lamenting a loss of genuine leadership and warning that revolutions are manipulated to prevent real change. She is pessimistic about key political figures like Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, but hopeful in smaller conservative voices like Joe Kent. Owens highlights the prevalence of coordinated online harassment, propaganda bots, and content manipulation by political and corporate actors, particularly associated with Israeli influence. She recounts experiences of mass bot-driven email campaigns aimed at silencing or blackballing dissenters such as herself and Megyn Kelly. Social media harassment is described as a major tool for controlling narratives and intimidating critics. Owens also connects the rise of toxic internet cultures, including violent video games emulating mass shootings, to broader efforts to desensitize and manipulate younger generations. The episode briefly explores recent UFO and UAP revelations, with Owens dismissing them as distractions from more urgent spiritual and political crises. She believes that many purported alien sightings are better explained as demonic manifestations, tying into occult and satanic presence in societal elites. Government secrecy and technology concealment play roles in maintaining illusions that obscure real sources of global control and manipulation. Candace Owens closes with reflections on resilience, faith, and gratitude despite personal and political hardships. She shares her experience surviving threats and betrayals, emphasizing trust in divine providence and the enduring support of her family and audience. Owens leads a prayer invoking protection for those suffering in the world, seeking courage and guidance for truth-tellers and offering forgiveness for enemies. She expresses optimism that global awakening and spiritual renewal are underway despite opposition from deeply entrenched evil forces.